Hello and welcome to our daily devotion where we share this one thing from our revised common lectionary for Friday, July the 17th. My name is Pam Maston. I'm one of the associate pastors here at First Presbyterian Church of Fort Lauderdale, and thank you for joining me today. As a farmer's daughter, one of my distinct memories of my dad is watching him pace the kitchen floor. Dad was always contemplating the weather. He still is. And as the summers went by, there was always this constant monitoring of the crops. One of the old adages used by corn farmers to measure the success of their crops come Independence Day is knee-high by the 4th of July. It was a good sign and meant they could count on high yields for the year. You may also want to look to the Oklahoma musical for a different measure of corn stalks. It's found in the classic lyrics from the song, "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning." There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear to the sky. Well, whether your corn is knee-high or as high as an elephant's eye by the 4th of July, they were both references for a good crop. Though farming traditions have changed over the years, the age-old adages are still widely accepted as part of agriculture tradition. Well, you and I don't see many cornfields in Fort Lauderdale, but our evening psalm for today is a harvest hymn of praise. Israel's agricultural economy depended upon rain at strategic times of the year, much like my dad, who knew that his livelihood depended upon rain in order to produce a good crop. This psalm may have been written after God had given rain, resulting in a fruitful season of plenty. The providence and provision of God is manifested each time He sends rain upon the earth, which should result in our praise and worship to the Lord. I wonder if communities that are closer to the land tend to be closer to God, since they recognize that they are dependent on the whims of the weather for their daily life. Since they have no control over the weather, they often look to God for protection and for provision of those conditions that will bring a fruitful harvest. When I was growing up, everybody I knew had a rain gauge in the yard, and we talked about the weather at every meal. And I have 3 weather apps on my phone, just because. Friends, Psalm 65 has a simple purpose: to express thanksgiving for rain and harvest, an appropriate subject in a farming economy. But it is still 100% appropriate today, even for those of us who live far from the land. This psalm reminds us all that we are dependent on God, no matter where we live or whatever our circumstances may be. When the rain comes and the crop produces plenty, farmers would indeed celebrate the harvest, of course. The psalmist reminds us all that it is God who blesses people with the abundance of the harvest. In verse 9, you greatly enrich it, and the river of God is full of water. Notice verse 10, you water its furrows abundantly. Verse 11, you crown the year with your bounty, and your wagon tracks overflow with abundance. And finally, in verse 12, we read, the pastures of the wilderness overflow. This section is all about how God blesses abundantly. This one thing for today is a sweet, sweet reminder of how God blesses God's people abundantly. In verse 9, the psalmist writes, you visit the earth and water it, you greatly enrich it. The river of God is full of water. You provide the people with grain, for so you have prepared it. Friends, how does God bless us abundantly in so many ways? Look at the beautiful things we see in creation. How does God bless you and I? How does God bless all of us abundantly? Look at the mountains and the waves and the trees and the flowers. And look how God does indeed bless us abundantly. Finally, we see God's blessings through the grace he has offered to all of humanity. In the midst of a worldwide pandemic and systemic injustice across the globe, Psalm 65 depicts a world alive with the bounty and glory of God. It's a picture of an undefiled, joyful creation, along with people delivered, at peace, and praising God. It's a vision counter to what we tend to see in the world today. And friends, it's a picture worth contemplating. Thank you so much for joining me today. Stay well, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you in worship on Sunday at 11 a.m. live stream.